pass collective bargaining agreements, continuing contract rights of teachers, continuation of union bargaining relationships, and the withdrawing town assumes the existing collective bargaining agreements as to employees that are in schools that the withdrawing town takes operation of. And the town then would be responsible for negotiating with employees going forward in schools that employees in schools that the town continues to operate. The agreement must provide for transition of administration and governance, election of a new school committee, etc. It must address undesignated fund balances, and often undesignated fund balances are apportioned according to the cost-sharing percentage of each of the municipalities, and that is one of the issues in the withdrawal negotiations. So, as far as opening the new school, there's a bunch of things that would need to be done, and Raymond has experience in this area because you operated your own school unit prior to the consolidation about 10 years ago. So there's nothing earth-shattering here, but there are things that would need to be in between the time of the withdrawal vote and the effective date of withdrawal. Electing a school board, you could decide whether to continue on as a municipal school unit, one school unit, or you could, if you chose, join RSU, or a alternative organizational structure, which is a looser affiliation among school units, in which school units share central administrative costs. You need a special education director. That also is something that often is a part-time position. Determine who will be principal of your schools, grants coordinators, IT, other responsibilities. All of those decisions would be up to the new Raymond School Committee to determine. Business services, accounting and financial services would be an important thing to us for the school committee to determine. And one of the first things that the school committee begins working on once elected is to develop the initial budget, and that's an important process. And you would want to have the assistant superintendent or consultant like Mark Eastman to assist with that. Adopting policies to govern the operation of the new school, making employment decisions. You'd be taking on existing employees generally, but to the extent that there's staffing changes that need to be made and always hired, those decisions would need to be made. Food service, transportation, maintenance, operations, all things would have to be addressed. So that's an overview of the process, and it's certainly an important issue to consider. If anybody's questions about the process or how it might work or what the issues might be, I'd be happy to help answer them.
All right, I'm going to open it up to the public for questions, concerns.
63 Hancock Road. I've heard a lot of stuff about money, process, responsibilities, job descriptions, all this complicated stuff that we'd be getting back into as a town. But I really haven't heard one word about the education of our students. We're going to figure it out. That's part of the process. My concern is, Teresa, you're very passionate in your presentation, and I grant you that. that if we can't even enforce and negotiate our own current cost-sharing agreement, in other words, we can't handle that with another entity. What we're about to step into is more than that. I'm extremely dismayed. What we're being told is that the rest of the RSU won't even talk to that just blows my mind on such an important issue. I'm assuming as we go along, somewhere, somehow, we're going to find out what this is really going to cost us. We're complaining about $9 million right now, if I understand it. It's too much. If we even force our current share agreement, $9 million is probably just the beginning. I mean, I have yet to hear, other than we're being ripped off and treated badly, why do we want to do this? So we need new computers. So in 3 years, and we take control, we're going to invest the money to buy them all new computers. I want to hear about what we feel passionate about in terms to take this on. Why aren't we talking about how we're going to educate our kids? Never mind the rest of it. I want to hear what this has to do with education of the kids, not all this stuff. They have nothing to do with the stuff. They just want to be educated. I'd like to hear some comments from, I mean, if the town feels it's going to cost us $50,000 just to figure it out, when we cut $1,000 here and $2,500 there, it concerns me. Will we truly make the investment that's needed just right and make it right? So I hear some more feedback from the select board, because this is huge. We have a petition, but I didn't hear that to be based on anything other than negative, what we're upset about. I'm not hearing the positive of the argument. Give me a positive reason to feel like I should support this. That's just my personal 2 cents.
Well, let me just wrap up it.
Is it public comment or is
Yes.
this select board comment? So does it go back and forth, or?
What do you want to do?
If you want, yeah.
They have to talk to us.
I mean, the whole purpose of the meeting tonight is to
Answers.
get feedback so that, so that when you go on the 14th, that, you'll have some
Educated.
basis as to where your decision is, but, let's step back a little bit and look. Where were we? Where are we now? Where would we be? If we look at, we had a Raymond School for K through 8, we tuitioned out our high school kids. Right now, because we will not send any kids here, we have Raymond, a K-8 school, we tuition our kids to high school. Essentially, it's part of the budget, but we're tuitioning another. If we separate, where are we going to be? We have a K-8 school, we're going to tuition our kids to high school. So from the standpoint of, is it fair to the kids? There's not going to be much of a change there. When we were on our own, we had schools of national excellence. Is that where they are right now? No. They don't carry that same certification. So can we get back to that? Yeah, we'll have to get there, but that would be a goal to get back into those areas there. Raymond had a concept many years ago of the Raymond, in which where there was areas that we could share responsibilities between the town and the school, we did. Where there were areas that, so did that help the school? Yes. Did it help the town? Yes. And we would want to look and do things along those lines again. So if the concern is, are the kids being hurt in any way? No, they're not, because they're going to be in the same spot today, and the same spot they were before we consolidated. The hope was when we consolidated that we would have a true consolidation, and they would look at total assets, total buildings, everything, and come into a consolidated network. That didn't happen. So, did we have doing that? That's the question that's up there.
Grace Levitt Road. I understand the need to ask a question and get an answer, but asking a question and getting an opinion is quite different. I understood the public hearing was for the public to give comment. The select board has made comments in previous select board meetings. So I'm unclear as to processes, but I have a number of comments here and maybe a few questions too. I have to take some issue with the first presentation. The amount that Raymond gets back from the state is not determined by the RSU, it's the state. Is that correct?
Yes.
By the formula, okay. So was presented in a somewhat, I feel, biased manner, as though the RSU determined that. But that's a state decision, and believe me, I think there's some need to work on the funding formula, certainly for both communities. I take issue with saying that we have not been able to enforce the cost share agreement. I think there's maybe two ways of looking at what that cost share agreement is, as opposed to what some have said is it wasn't being done right. Some people feel it was done right. So I'm not sure that it's fair to present that as though it was fact. It just feels like there's a lot of bias in the presentation that was given first. And to say that the RSU board members from Raymond, or the RSU board in general, did not do their due diligence, I think that's very hard for others to sit in judgment of that. I trust that they do their due diligence. I know the people sitting behind me that represent Raymond on the board, and I know that they certainly have looked at all the ins and outs as much as possible. I certainly take issue with the fact that before being in the RSU, we had schools of national excellence, and now we don't. So much has changed in education in the last 2 decades. There is no guarantee that going back to being on our own would produce schools of national excellence. So much has changed for students and their needs, and you need to all hear that from someone who's been in the trenches for quite a while. I'm looking at the cost of this. I think it's misleading, $50,000 over 2 years. Pay attention to the last few slides there. That's a huge cost for this town. You're talking about duplication of administrators, et cetera, to fulfill those roles. Oh, well, it could just be part-time. I know what it's like to have part-time administrators. It's not the best situation. So you really need to be thinking about that before we go further in this road. It was so much work the last time this process was put in place. Been there, done that, I want to say. Circumstances maybe are a little different, and maybe other things have led folks to that petition and signing it again. But I, for one, have been very glad that our students have a school to go to. The uncertainty of even a 10-year agreement, if you can get one with a district. What about the uncertainty of that school district that doesn't know how many kids they're going to have from year to year? And they have to plan budgets, and they have to provide. That's not a great place for schools to be. So what district out there in some nearby area is going to say, sure, we'll give you a 10-year commitment, take any or all kids, not knowing from 1 year to the next how many that might be, and what the impact is on all the kids in that district, not to mention Raymond students. Educational standpoint, that's horrible. That's horrible. 1997, I can't remember the month, late winter, early spring, and I sat with my 6th grade daughter trying to decide what we were going to do for the next year. The surrounding schools, many of them, wouldn't accept our students because they were crowded. Wyndham wanted a deal. They wanted a guarantee of a certain number of students that would come, where we paid the amount whether they came or not. We had a contract with Westbrook. That was quite a distance to go. And that was probably, well, I've had a lot of stressful years in my life, but not too many have come close to that. And the worry of knowing what that student, my child, was going to do for the next 6 years, because at that time we didn't have 7th and 8th grade either. So that was a big concern. It ended up working out all right. Wasn't the best choice, though. Her friends went every which way. You lost any sense of community. They lost contact with the childhood friends growing up. There was no way to maintain that because they all went to different schools. I was lucky. My daughters went to where I teach, so at least they had that contact. I had a community there of sorts with my colleagues and their kids, and that helped. And they had a great education, but it wasn't what I would have wanted. I would have much rather wanted our town to have one community with Wyndham, with whomever, where all the kids went and maintained those friendships and that contact. It was really hard. It was harder on my second daughter, but of course she's the same place, because how many directions can a family go in? But it was really hard for her to establish friendships, and that had an impact on her. So I remember that so very clearly, and I just wish we could have had one school district back then. And I was very grateful when the RSU formed, because it could give students a sense of community. Yes, there's some that are going to choose something else for their sons and daughters, and so be it. But it had that option. The vast majority go to the Wyndham High School, and they have programs and a great facility. And it just seems so foolish to be wasting $50,000 up to, not to mention all the other costs down the road, and the agony, and the upheaval, and the time. Maybe arrive at the same situation we're in right now, which is we're in the RSU. I hope that is where we do end up staying. This is just not worth it to me. Not worth it to our kids. And I question the timing of this vote on it. I guess by law it had to be after the petition was submitted or something, or is this vote coming at this time? I don't know if there's any. Because this is a pretty big decision to decide to go down this road and to put people do all this work and have an expense at the town when we're so careful with our dollars here. We're having it at a time where there are many more residents paying attention to be here. Maybe they're away on vacation, but it's being done in the middle of August. Actually, I didn't even realize it was a vote. There was a hearing tonight, but I had to catch the sign and it said the voting was occurring. So I certainly hope people are able to come and vote. Again, I take issue with some of the information that was presented. I don't really know that it was fact. And certainly with some of the other opinions stated. Yeah, you're entitled to your opinion, but I just don't like opinions being stated as though they're factual. So thank you for listening. I think I hit all the points. If not, I might come up to the mic again.
Thank you. Peter Levitt, 2 Levitt Road. So you can choose to answer these questions or not. I'll just throw them out. So they are more of the bucks thing. So first of all, to establish, some would say that after the last attempt at withdrawal, what happened agreements, rather than going through withdrawal processes in order to intimidate the RSU, in order to the end justifies the means, because we'll come out with a negotiation. If that's the mode, I would say, it'd be better to hire an attorney and just say, look, you were supposed to have reduced this 2 years ago, and you haven't talked to us. So we'll see you in court. In the PowerPoint, the question was on, said that I think it was like $9,600 is what for leasing now, to lease the area for our buses. And then it said, but it would be a substantial increase. I guess I would want to know what would a substantial increase be over the $96 when we're talking about multi-million-dollar budgets. But whether or not that's enough to get up in arms and rally everybody going down this road is necessary for pockets when it comes to a budget in the millions. The reasoning there and the efforts there. I don't believe you have to spend that whole $50,000. That's basically written in the statute that you have to set aside so money. I guess another question was asked at the last attempt that the town had, how much of that $50,000 was spent? And isn't that a nice fact to know? I mean, if it was $20,000, it was $10, I don't know. So I guess I've got some questions more on the financial side of things. It's not lost on me that in fact quality, taught here and to the greatest extent it could be, as far as focusing just on the dollars and cents. I would be on pretty solid ground relating that the primary reason why this withdrawal was unsuccessful the last time is it just did not make financial sense. Thank you.
I am going to comment on that. It was on that PowerPoint presentation. I can find a video, minutes, agenda. Point about the not financially responsible for another building. Marshall and Don Willard were at that meeting, and Marshall was the one that asked the question. Did you ask about any other buildings?
The issue, Peter, for me was the building that they're building is the top of the line maintenance facility that can survive a nuclear attack. It's $310 a square foot. A building on Enterprise Drive, sufficient, heated, sufficient to maintain buses, $65 a square foot. When I asked Sandy Prince, have you done your due diligence in looking at other examples? No, we trusted this building. To me, that made sense. It's an expense, and from 900 to 63,000. The difference is the spread on the lease payments, including additional interest.
$63,000.
63,000.
As opposed to
96, right.
But the $9,400 is what the arch is paying, that's centage.
Right.
But based on that, I just totally lost. Totally just went blank.
No, so there's two numbers right there, Peter, that just didn't mix at all.
I just
$63,000 and a $6 million
For $9 million for a 20-year investment, and then we have nothing at the end, because those are just lease payments.
Well, here's the thing is, there has not even been a contract in RSU in the town of Wyndham fully negotiated
Right.
yet. They're building it, and now there's gonna be cost changes because of the whole thing with the tariffs and stuff. And as far as going to court, we weighed that out as an option, as a board, the select board did. And it would start $50,000 just to prepare for a hearing with you to win. So what I did is I called Sebago, because Sebago, Dan worked with so recently, and to do 2.5 years, it cost them $6,000 to withdraw the process using Dan and Mark. And the other thing is, on our last one, we stopped the withdrawal process because we felt it was the time for the cost sharing agreement, the change percentage, and I think we sent, oh God, something
That means $5,000.
no, yes, so it was low, so we thought that, yes, this is great, you know, we did, but it's not. And what people don't know is, because it was happening behind the scenes, is we had been with them sending letters to the RSU and town of Wyndham with no, in fact, one of the response back was, and this was May, I don't plan on answering your text back because I don't want to talk to the school board till at least they do. So these are the kind of responses, and for instance, video saying that they have not checked. These other things are in minutes and agendas is where it is. So everything, because I've learned to fight this battle, I better be able to back it up. Anybody else?
Frank McDermott, Dermott Road. Back up, everything that